Bullock, and I'm the CEO and founder of Flikshop. So I grew up in the Washington, D.C. metro area. When I was 15 years old, I made one of the worst decisions of my life. A friend of mine and I, we approached a man sleeping in his car, pulled out a gun, demanded the keys to his car, and we sped off. That decision landed me in front of a judge with my mom and my sister standing just a few feet behind me as they listened to me get sentenced to 8 years in adult maximum security prisons. In fact, at that time, I was thinking about homecoming and prom and planning the national and the state championships for my basketball team. It wasn't until many, many years later that I had to look back on some of those experiences and say, wow, you went through sentencing and Judge Klein gave you 23 years to life and suspended 15 of those years. I had to do a different kind of math calculation than some of my best friends that were going to Suitland High School. My math calculation was built around concurrent or consecutive mandatory minimum sentences when others were thinking about Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. It was a different world that I was introduced to. I look back on it now and say that this was one of the things that would obviously we would abhor as we think about how we're incarcerating children. But in that moment, I wanted my mom, I wanted to play basketball, and I wanted to go to homecoming. I was about 3 years into my sentence then, and I still had 5 more to go. My mom asked me what I was going to do next. But that was the moment that I realized that something was going to have to change in my life. So I enrolled inside of a vocational class at a prison facility that was centered around business, computer, software applications. That one enrollment form was the springboard to who I am today. Eventually, it led to me wanting to figure out how to be an entrepreneur on my own, and I would read business magazines and newspapers, and that's when I realized, like, you know what, Marcus, you got a shot at this. When I go home, I'm gonna be 23 years old, and I still have the rest of my life in front of me. So how am I gonna live life with intentionality from that point forward? And that's what gave birth to so many of my best ideas that I no longer was afraid to be able to venture out and do something about and start them. You know, after serving 8 years in prison, I thought that I was gonna have my life back when I was released. It wasn't until after I applied for 41 jobs and had to check the box that said I was a convicted felon that allowed me to be able to see that that was just baloney that I told myself in my head. This was the beginning of something different and something new that I couldn't have prepared for, and that was reentry. The reentry process is a dark one, not because there's lacking in the people that you have that want to be able to support you, but it's really because we're just walking around this space like we know what's going on in the world and have no idea how to even interact with people after being gone for so long. Having the opportunity to be able to land such a huge contract at the Baltimore-Washington International Airport was transformative, not just for me and our career and for the business that we were starting, but it allowed me to go from the guy who was applying for jobs, getting the door slammed in my face, to the guy who was now offering jobs and being able to say, hey, I want people that have felonies on their record to come and work for me. The reason why we started Flikshop is because I wanted every person in every cell in America to receive mail from their loved ones. We started off by connecting 50 families, and then we connected 100, and then 500, and now we've connected over 148,000 families around the country, and we're able to see lives being transformed simply because they saw their daughter's first day of school picture. They saw their grandmother cooking their favorite dessert at Thanksgiving. They saw moments that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to see or share with simply because technology doesn't exist that way in prison. We landed on something special, and we're super excited about seeing how it's continuing to grow. It's interesting because there were certain times during this journey when I really just wanted to give up. I felt that the bottom was falling out for me, and all of the things that I was told when I was in those cells about not being able to find a job or not being able to find new friends who would believe in me I started seeing these things as truths, and the expectation when I report to my probation officer is that I go out into the world and be this huge success in the world, navigating it all on my own. But one of the things that I am grateful for, that silver lining in my dark cloud of prison, was that it did teach me about tenacity and the ability to be able to push forward and break through walls at any level. This is what I have to tell myself even now as I go through the fundraising journey, right? There's so many obstacles and barriers that are placed on the men and women that have that F on their chest that stands for felony, but we have to figure out ways to be able to jump over those hurdles. And I'm grateful that God has blessed me with the energy to continue to keep pushing even when the times get darkest.